still more proof of the insular state's criminality. October 21, 2019 by Anna von Reitz. The Municipal United States Government has been run under Roman civil law by the Roman Pontiff and Roman Curia, embedded within, and hiding behind the storefront offered by, the Roman Catholic Church. The Pope has also had control of the British Territorial United States Government, which is a Commonwealth operated for the Pope by the British Queen. No surprise that these two colluding interlopers, who are subcontractors of our actual government, the United States of America, went hog wild and devolved into crime syndicates that are utterly debauched and still making a bid to control our country via some misdirected and clueless military officers promoting the Republic. For the past several years, we have reported on the IRS, Municipal and the Internal Revenue Service, Territorial operations. These entities have been run by the Inquisition and operated out of Puerto Rico for decades to collect Peter's Pence, otherwise known as federal income taxes. Puerto Rico is a British Commonwealth. When we blew open their fraud and base of operations in Puerto Rico, they went lickety-split to another insular state, the Northern Mariana Islands, and set up their same old fraud scheme there. And now, we have proof that they have been running crime schemes of an even more dubious kind out of the Marshall Islands, another insular state being mismanaged for us. I am quoting in part from an article published by Forbidden Knowledge TV, entitled Arizona Child Predation Services. Maricopa County Assessor Paul Peterson was arrested on charges of running an illegal international adoption scheme in 3 states. Peterson is facing 62 criminal charges for bringing pregnant women from the Marshall Islands to Arizona to give birth and then selling their babies in Utah, Arizona and Arkansas. What this doesn't tell you is that the Marshall Islands were being used merely as a collection place and shipping center. They aren't talking about pregnant Marshall Islanders. They are talking about victims of rape and criminal abuse who are impregnated by these fiends being shipped around and harvested, their children robbed from them and sold for profit on top of everything else. It also doesn't tell you that our own dear U.S. Navy has been deeply involved in this transport and trafficking. According to public records and sources, Peterson has curious associations with GOP critics of President Trump, including the late U.S. Senator John McCain, U.S. Senator Mitt Romney and especially with former U.S. Senator Jeff Flake, who is known to have made several trips to the Marshall Islands, himself. And, there's more, an NGO called Child Help, with connections to George Bush, Hollywood, Merv Griffin and the Mafia of Atlantic City, New Jersey, plus 3 real-life heroes, senators who had been working on behalf of trafficked children and who were all murdered, and how sitting Arizona State Senator Dave Farnsworth continues to carry on with their work. The 3 heroes working to help the enslaved women and helpless children? Jonathan Nichols from the Oklahoma State Senate and Arkansas State Senator, Linda Collins Smith, and former Georgia Senator Nancy Schaefer, all murdered execution style in their homes. Child Protective Services (CPS) and/or the Department of Human Services (DHS) are private, non-governmental agencies funded by federal grants. Child Protective Services (CPS) is a multi-billion-dollar business and can be a very corrupt service. Unfortunately, there is an incentive to sell children, and CPS can be fraudulent and can hide behind the confidentiality clause. This is all part of the illegal and unauthorized government by agency introduced by Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the corrupt Municipal United States Government being run amok by the office of the Roman Pontiff, which has served to privatize government functions and place them into the hands and control of unsavory private business interests. This has all been further promoted by the federal block grant scam introduced by another Democrat who came to power via criminal violence, LBJ, which is basically just bribes and kickback money offered to state and local government franchises in return for tolerating and advancing federal racketeering operations on our soil. This appalling criminality has to be stopped, nationally within our states, and internationally, by the United States of America. As horrific as the situation with DHS and CPS is, these are merely two so-called federal agencies which are run as unaccountable privatized crime syndicates, all operating under color of law. They have no actual authority to address Americans or take our children, but they pretend to have such authority and get away with it because people remain uninformed and trusting, thinking that these goons are actually part of our government when they are not. These agencies, like the IRS, like the FBI, like DOJ, like BLM, are just subcontractors of subcontractors. They are hired and operating under color of law, under the auspices of the Pope's Municipal United States Government, which is operating the so-called Federal Civil Service, and doing business in our name as the United States. Remember how Lavoy Finicum, a rancher on his way to a public meeting, was ambushed and murdered by agents of the FBI and colluding local sheriffs working for incorporated federal franchises operating as counties? It's all part of the same gross mismanagement of government contracts, all sourced to the same evil, the Roman Pontificate and Roman Curia, lodged at the center of the Roman Catholic Church. And more recently trying to work through the United Nations as a storefront, too. And now your actual government of, for, and by the people of this country calls upon you to get up off your couches and correct your falsified political status records, and join your state assembly. Go to www.theamericanstatesassembly.net. Get started today. These are ultimately our run-amok employees. If we don't impose sanctions upon them and redirect them at all levels, it's our fault. If we don't pin the erring Municipal United States Government to the ropes, it's our fault. If we don't give a good goddamn enough to stand up and run our own country, it's our fault. And if we don't bother to bring these wrongdoers to justice, guess what? It's our own fault. Spread the word and flush the hint. Most but not all are Democrats. You shall know them by their fruits, aka voting records.